My name is Shakoya Green. I am a former foster youth. I grew up in the foster care system from the age of 7 until I was 18. A grandmother, both of my parents were addicted to substance abuse. So my mom would take us and drop us off at my grandmother's house for several days. And at one point, my grandmother was like, I have to do something because she was financially taking care of us when my grandmother would leave. And my grandmother was a single woman, had raised seven children. And so my grandmother called DCFS and opened up the case, which
Erica Lynn Speaks podcast is a place where you can grow beyond your limitations and make an impact on the world. I am Erica Lynn. I will teach you how to take the restraints off of you, begin to live free, and become unstoppable. Welcome back to Erica Lynn Speaks podcast for yet another successful podcast. But we talk about all the limitations, all the traumas and the fears that people have in their life and how you overcome them, how you persevere, how you move past things that just kept you in a place of being stuck to unstuck. You know, all too often we say, oh, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. But you know, when you tell yourself that you can't, oftentimes you have a hard time accomplishing your goals. But when you tell yourself you can do all things through Christ that strengthens you. So this podcast is to encourage you that you can do whatever you set your mind to. You can overcome whatever obstacles are in your way. My next guest know all too well, not only personally, but know through a lot of her clients and people that she worked with, how they are dealing with a lot of limitations, had a lot of things come their way. But yet through God and perseverance and having the right people by their side, they were able to overcome and just keep moving and kicking butt and taking names in life. So join me, my next guest, Shakoya Green, and welcome to Erica Lynn Speaks podcast.
Thank you so very much, Erica. I am very happy to be here.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad that you were able to come. And so I had to give you such a wonderful introduction because you do so much in the community and to help other people. But before I tell them how you help other people and what it is that you do in the community, can you just give the listeners a little background about yourself and some challenges that you've faced and how you've overcome those challenges?
Yes. So as Erica stated, my name is Shakoya Green. I am a former foster youth. I grew up in the foster care system from the age of 7 until I was 18. My grandmother, both of my parents were addicted to substance abuse. So my mom would take us and drop us off at my grandmother's house for several days. And at one point, my grandmother was like, I have to do something because she was financially taking care of us when my grandmother would leave. And my grandmother was a single woman, had raised seven children. And so my grandmother called DCFS and opened up the case, which was very hard for her. However, it was what needed to happen so that she could get some support. With myself, I had a sister who was 3 years older than me, and then a younger brother at that time. And so my grandmother took us in, and she raised us from I was 7 until I graduated school. Went into a rehab when I was a senior in high school. Got herself clean and got my younger brother back and raised him and my brother that she had when I was a senior in high school. So for me, it was very hard growing up. Although I had my grandmother and my aunts, it was hard not having a mother. Although I have mother figures, it's different.
Mm-hmm.
It's really different. And then having to have social workers come to your school, I would have to say that I was blessed with a grandmother who really wanted us to thrive and really supported us. And she advocated to the social workers. They don't want you coming to their school, and I don't want you going to their school. So our social workers made 2 trips. They would go to the school and talk to the teachers, but they wouldn't talk to us. They would wait and come to the house to talk to us afterwards, which being a social worker, that's really showing empathy, and really understanding the trauma that it is for a child to be in the foster care system, because it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah, and I see that it's still painful for you. I know that you have overcome these challenges. Have you did the what I want to know is have you did the work to internally heal from the traumas of your past? Or have you did what many people do and just go through life and add on more life with actually healing your core?
I have actually done the work. And this is part of my healing process, right? I would never tell my story uh, publicly. A podcast, it took me, I wrote my first blog 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote it 4 times, and the last time I wrote it was the first time that I could actually write it
Mm-hmm.
and not shed a tear. Um, it was hard. And talking about it sometimes, although I've gone through the healing process, it still comes up for me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, when it comes up and it's out, then you're right, that is a form of your healing because when you hold it in and you don't get it out, then you begin to suppress it. And when you begin to suppress something inside of you, then the pain begins to manifest and the experiences and the traumas and the things that you went through, they all begin to manifest. And it's like a volcano, just one day they just erupt and you just like, whoa, and all kind of things just happen. So kudos to you for going through your healing journey, going through the process and taking the necessary steps that you need to heal you. Because in order for you to help all the countless other people that you're going to help, you got to start with yourself first, right?
Absolutely. And honestly, because I had such a passion to help others, that's when I realized I had to go through my process of healing first before I could really help some of the young people that I able to help, because I wasn't able really to share my story with them because I hadn't gone through the process, and so they thought they were the one. This is it. Oh, my mom is on drugs, and I'm sitting there like my first few clients sitting there in my mind saying, yeah, mine was too. So push forward, but not until I was able to share my story was I really able to help young people to push past those traumas and move forward.
Yeah, and that's true because sometimes people go, how can you help me if you haven't gone through anything yourself? So a lot of people like to hear your experiences. And so that's one of the reasons why when the coaches come on this podcast, I have them share their story. And because people want to know, what have you gone through and how did you come through it? So that tells them if you're able to help them, opposed to a person who's just by the book. So if you're trying to help me from what the book says, I mean, come on, help me from a place of real life and personal experiences and how to pivot and how to just move beyond. If I'm coming to you from the right, like you got to come with some good stuff over here to the left and help me work my way over here, and make it through. And so one of the things that you've done in your growth journey, tell me about your experience of being a first time college graduate in your family.
That was one of growing up born and raised in Compton. At 16, I remember really paying close attention to the news and hearing all of the negative things that the news had to say about the city of Compton and what was produced and what came out of Compton. And I literally stopped watching the news at that point. But I always knew that I wanted to do more than my mom did. I wanted to make sure that I could be better for my future children than my mom was for me. I always knew that there was so much more out there besides what the news said about the people in Compton.
Mhm.
And from the people that I knew that came out of Compton and was flourishing and had gone to college and was doing great things. And I'm like, the news is only showing the bad stuff. We have to do more so that they can see more. And
Mhm.
so I pushed and pushed. I was honestly a straight A student for most of my, elementary, middle school, and high school. Graduated top 20 of my high school class and got to college and was like this. like thinking, I thought I was smart, and I was,
Yeah.
but I was behind.
Yeah.
I really was. I was behind for what I was up against, but I did not let that stop me.
Mhm.
College, undergrad, I didn't have no 3.0. Mm-mm. I had like a 2.7, 2.8. I was determined to graduate in 4 years, worked 2 to 3 jobs at any given time, but I was determined to get through. And I had so many younger cousins. I wanted to be able to set an example for them. Cousins that I babysat during the summer when my aunts would go to work. So I really wanted to be able to set an example for them, so that they knew that they could go on to a university, graduate college, and do something with their lives. And I would have to say it was awesome. It was a great experience. And it's one of the things that I can say to my daughter, I have a bachelor's degree and 2 master's degrees. Now let's focus on what you're going to get. Let's focus on you being better than mommy. Let's focus on getting scholarships, because I don't want you to have no student loans. Because although yes, I am a first generation college student, I didn't know about some of the things that other people knew about when it comes to scholarships. I got, excuse my French, hella loans, right, that I have to pay back. But right now, what I'm doing is educating other people about free schooling. Go to 2 years of junior college. You can get 2 years free in California, then transfer in, because we all deserve to have that education, but it's not something that, that is talked about amongst us often.
Right, right, absolutely. And that's great that you brought that point up, because education is important. And the way that the world is transitioning, a high school diploma or a GED is not going to be enough to get you a job in the future. And so now you got to compete, with other individuals, because there are so many people out here who have degrees that don't have a job. So now that person that has a degree, they're going to be taking the job at the McDonald's, or they're going to be taking, and so you're going to have to prepare yourself for the future, like really learn technology and become certified, even if you don't necessarily have a degree in technology, but at least become certified, and so that you can move on and continue to grow, and just follow the trend. And the trend is saying technology is here, we're here to stay, but we're going to keep growing, we're going to keep excelling, and you guys got to get in the game, you got to put some skin in the game, right?
Like you said, one of the things I want you share about the certificates. If you're into technology, you're right. You don't have to go 4 years and get a bachelor's degree. Go get that 16-month, 12-month certificate. And in coding, especially as a Black woman or a Black girl in coding, oh, you have an advantage with the technology piece. There's so much out there right now for Black women in coding, and Black men in coding, because that's not our common. That's not what you see. It's not common for us.
Okay. Okay. I'm sure it pays really good money, because if you think about these cell phones that everybody have, these tablets, the computers, somebody have to create them, somebody have to invent them, somebody have to code them, and do the engineering and things of that. So you want to get you a certificate, or you want to get you some type of training in computers. But even in what we do, for example, let's take the podcasting, for example. Yeah, no, I got to do a lot more than just sit behind the camera. So I have to learn how to work the camera. I have to have the lights going on. I had to plug up the microphone. And so, because I wanted my system set up to where I didn't want to have to wear a headset, because to me, that's the cop out. And I don't want to mess up my hair.
That's
but
the part.
But once you're done recording the podcast and all the technology that you have to utilize on the computer, then the podcast has to be edited and uploaded to your website. And It's like a lot of moving parts. But in order to do that, that is computer. That's a form of technology. And I had to be taught how to use some of this stuff. Some of this stuff I couldn't just get up and plug in and go, oh, I got this. So that's just the same with life. That's just the same with everything that's going on, that's going on now and will be going on in the future. You have to stay in, in the realms of the technology so that you can move forward. And so now, so I was reading here about some of your obstacles and how you overcame them. And one of the things that you have here, we want to talk about, would you say your mother being told that she could not have you, that you could not have any children, or your mother couldn't have any children?
No, me, that I couldn't have any children. At 23, I was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome. Growing
Okay.
up, I said, "Oh, I wanted four kids, two sets of twins." I wrote that several times. I was a huge journaler through from middle school till I graduated from high to college. But one of the things I always said was I wanted four kids. And at 23, I was told I could not have any children. I had polycystic ovarian syndrome, and that there was a 95 to a 98% chance that I would not have kids. Um, I went through several doctors, lots of testing. I was monitoring what I ate, doing food journals, doing weighing my foods. And I took this medication. I took metformin. I was on metformin from 23 until 28. I moved, I got engaged, moved to the Inland Empire, and had to get a new doctor. He ran all these tests, and he told me, and I remember so clearly, it was October of 2005. He told me, "You do not need this medication, and you can have kids." He said, "It may be a little bit harder for you, but I will give you the prescription." This was my second appointment after he had looked at all my results and stuff. He said, "I'm going to give you the medication because you've been sold on it. But I recommend you not take it." It was the beginning of October. I took the medication all of October. And in November, I said, "You know what? I'm done. I'm not going to take this medication." And February 1st of 2006, I took 5 home pregnancy tests. I got married January 30th, and had been sick for 4 weeks, having this bad indigestion. And I associated it with, I was going up and down in my weight, trying all these different weight loss trends. I had been eating a lot of grapefruit. You know how they say that pink grapefruit diet? And the doctor had told me I had eaten up the lining of my stomach by eating so much grapefruit. So I just associated it with indigestion. And one of my friends said, "Take a pregnancy test." I took a pregnancy test. I sent her a picture. I said, "This got to be wrong." I went to the store. So that was test one. Another one. So I went to the store and they had the double boxes. So I bought 2 double boxes. I took all 4 of those tests and they came back. And I was like, "Nah, I got to see a doctor. This is not right. I have been taking all this medication. I was told I can't have kids." Had was traumatized behind that because I knew I wanted children. And I went to the doctor, and lo and behold, I was pregnant. High risk pregnancy, couldn't drive far distances, couldn't wear certain shoes, was in and out of the hospital 3 to 4 times during my pregnancy, on IVs, couldn't eat certain foods, couldn't keep food down, didn't gain any weight until my 8th month. And it was all baby, because when I walked out the hospital, it was all gone after having her. So I was
Oh,
September 22nd of 2006 with a little baby girl who was now 14 years old.
oh, wow. Wow. That's a fantastic story. Yeah, I know sometimes having being pregnant, the signs are confusing. I've been there, done that. So yes, but I'm so glad that you have your baby girl here, and you able to love on her and grow her up to be the young woman that she's going to mature into becoming. And so you have just really been on a roller coaster, absolutely. And there are a lot of people, as you know, who have been in foster care, who have parents that were addicted to drugs, who just had their own obstacles. And you just, by you overcoming it, not only did you overcome it, but you've created platforms and avenues for people to come to you, to for you to assist them and help them heal and help them know that they can get past this and just do whatever they want to do in life. And so I would like for you to share with whomever is watching this podcast and just feel like they just can't go any further because the things of their past just have just really weighed them down and they just feel like giving up or no one cares. Can you tell them something that will motivate them, but then also tell them how they can find you, how they can reach you, how that they can come and work with you?
So when I wrote my essay for my master's in social work program, and you said the scripture, I can do all things through Christ. I stand firm on that. I stand firm on God's word. Um, the other thing that I stand firm on for you that are listening is the word grace. God's grace has given you the power to see another. God has given us the grace to live, to open our eyes every day. So I'm a firm believer in His grace and His mercy is what we stand firm on. And so I have taken the word grace and broken it down because this is how I continue to live. The G is grow. Always allow yourself to grow. Look to grow each day. Don't let what happened to you yesterday be your end all be all. There's so much more ahead. So G stands for grow. The R is for resilient. Be resilient. Be resilient in knowing that my past is my past and my future is where God is taking me. So be resilient. The A is for ambitious. Always be ambitious and create a plan. Create a plan and know that the C stands for compassion. And while everybody says, "Oh, have compassion for others," you got to have compassion for yourself first. And when you can have compassion for yourself, those things that pushed you back or holding you back, no, I got some compassion. I know I dealt with those or I have to deal with those, but I have compassion and I'm going to move forward. So the C is for compassion and the E is for empower. Be empowered and know that there are people out there that moved forward that are empowering you. And guess what? Empower the next person to move forward. So I stand on grace daily. I stand on the word of God. I stand on His faith and knowing that He blessed me with other people so that I can be a blessing to someone else. And that is why I started a nonprofit called Blessed to Be a Blessing. So I do have a nonprofit where I support other people, but I also have a coaching business that I recently launched. It's Sincerely Destined for Greatness. It's SDG Coaching and Training, and I have a website, and I can be found. My website is sdgcoaching.com. I am also on Facebook at SDG Coaching and on Instagram at SDG_coaching.
Wow, that's fantastic. You're doing a lot, girl. Kicking a butt and taking names. I'm like, oh, but that's fantastic. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast and not only sharing your story, but being a blessing to help somebody else who, may be in your same situation or can relate to you because they're called to you. I always say that there's a lot of coaches in the world, right? But the person that is called to you is called to you. And the person that you are called to, then that's the way it is. And so there's enough people to go around for everybody. And so that's why I love having different coaches that come on and speak about something different than what I do, so that if somebody is listening to this podcast and they don't relate to me, perhaps they relate to you, Shakoya. And so I just think that it's just a wonderful thing because it takes a village to raise a family, and together we come together as a village so that we can be there for all those that are in need. And so if you guys, want to work with Shakoya, I will make sure that I put her information in the show notes when the podcast drops so that you can reach her. And she's going to just be a blessing. She's going to pour that grace onto you. She's going to walk with you with grace. And so I think that's fantastic. So again, thank you for coming on the show.
And thank you so much for having me. And thank you for opening up the opportunity. Like you said, there's so many people out there, and you do coaching and you do amazing work, yet you provide a platform for other women to come on and share their, their experiences and their programs as well, which is a true blessing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because hey, I can't heal everybody. I used to like to think so, but I can't. So anyway, you guys, thank you guys for watching Erica Lynn Speaks podcast. And if you know that you have some areas in your life that you need to overcome, you have some areas in your life that just challenged you a little bit too much, and it caused you to be in a place of stuck. And you say, I want to go from stuck to unstuck. Erica, I want to experience things in my life. I want to play big. I want to be bold. I'm tired of just accepting what life throws to me. I'm tired of life designing my path for me. I want to design my own path. I want to walk in my own path. And if you're ready for me to walk with you or give you the tools and techniques so that you can design your own path, just go to ericalynnspeaks.com. I gave you guys a free ebook that gives you steps that you can use to overcome your weaknesses, that will guide you and walk with you. It's right there. Just get your free ebook on ericalynnspeaks.com. And so I can't wait to see you guys at the next podcast. And make sure that when this podcast drops, you comment in the podcast notes below in the comment section, because we love to hear from you. Don't just listen to the podcast and don't tell us what you think about it. Ms. Shakoya, we want to hear your feedback. We want to know if we're delivering valuable information to you, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. So that's my time. And I am Coach Erica Lynn from Erica Lynn Speaks. And just remember, it only takes just one step beyond you. God bless you. This podcast was brought to you by ericalynnspeaks.com. Sign up for your free consultation today at ericalynnspeaks.com/work with me. And just remember, it only takes just one step beyond you.
Beyond you. I say Erica Lynn Speaks.